Okay, Kyle, here's how you change an outlet from a 2-prong to a 3-prong. Your first step is you need to turn off the breaker to the outlet. So once you have it turned off, just plug in an appliance that you know works. Turn it on. If it doesn't work, your outlet's off. Cool. Then you unscrew this plate. Okay, now we're going to move on to reading the instructions, seeing what's going on with the receptacle, because likely it feeds additional receptacles. If not, it's a little simpler, but this one is feeding other receptacles, so we're going to start referencing the instructions. So we just need to check and see how this is configured. I'm not really able to get a really good look right now, so we're going to disconnect this just so we can get a better look and see what's going on. Okay, so we got both of those screws out. There was no nut. I was tripping. So we're just going to wiggle this out a little and see what's going on. Okay, so here's the deal. We have line, which is the bottom wire, and we have load, which is the top 2 wires. You can see that on both sides. So the bottom one is from the breaker to this outlet, or from some other power source to this outlet, and the top 2 feed to probably one's a light switch, and the other is another outlet. So what I'm going to do is, the outlet's still off. I'm going to take some electrical tape and I'm going to mark the bottom white wire and the bottom black wire, which is this one. So I'm going to mark both of those so I know that those are hot. And that's the one I'm going to hook up to the line. And then the load is going to be the one that I hook up the 2 other cables to. So that explanation should be in your instructions. You can pause that and read it if you want. If you don't feel comfortable with any of this, you can just call an electrician, obviously. The other thing is you want to make sure that this outlet was installed correctly in the first place. When we moved in, we checked every outlet with a receptacle tester. The receptacle tester read fine, except that there's no ground. We don't have grounds at all. It's an old house. It doesn't have grounds. Yours might not have grounds either. So you're going to have 2 wires per cable, which is what I have. So you probably read no ground, but the reverse polarity would mean that you have your line and load on the wrong ends. Don't pay attention to which is top and bottom on this outlet. It doesn't really matter. Just mark your hot lines. Mark the lines, and then you'll go and you'll reference this. So this is the back of your receptacle. This one and this one are your lines. So just like this, your line is going to be on this side. Your black line is going to be on right here, and then your white line is going to be on this side. And that's on the top. So this one, it might be upside down. I don't know. It might have been manufactured differently. I don't know. But we are going to do the hot lines up on top, and then we're going to remove the yellow here, and we're going to hook up our black loads here and our white loads here, which is the 2. It's a lot easier if your receptacle doesn't feed into any other receptacle. You're just going to have the 2 lines, and so you're just going to do your black line here and your white line here, and then you're good. It gets a little more complicated when you have additional ones. Also, these instructions say if you have two, it says basically not to hook up two wires to the load, because if you fuck it up, you could just remove all the GFCI capability. So what I'm doing isn't recommended by the manufacturer at all, but you know, it's not, as long as you do right, it's not a big deal. The wires are the same size. If your wires are two different sizes, that might be an issue. At that point, you probably do want to call an electrician. But if they're the same size, the two loads are the same size, it's not a big deal. Took up both loads. I don't know if you're going to encounter this or not. My house was had a lot of do-it-yourself stuff going on with it, I think. So about the whole marking them thing, I'm not going to mark them because I can see the line, the hot wire from the breaker or the supply is a copper wire. It's like a U. It hooks onto it, and the loads are some other. There's silver metal. I don't know, galvanized steel, something like that. So I'm going to be able to tell the difference between them. So if you have something like that, you can note. You don't have to necessarily mark them. And obviously, just follow the same instructions I gave earlier. Okay, so we got everything disconnected. As you can see, it's all disconnected. Okay, be right up. So the next step is we're gonna hook up the black wire. Sorry. So the next step is we're gonna hook up the black wire here, the white wire here, and that's how it's already configured. And look at your lengths of your wires. Like my supply lines are actually a lot shorter than my load lines. So the line is shorter than the load. So since the line's on the top, I'm going to try and hook these onto the top. I think it'll fit better that way. And then I'm going to stretch the load lines to the bottom. Okay, so I ran into a small issue. This outlet box was too small for the GFCI outlet. It just wouldn't fit. It's contacting the walls, which is really bad. So I had to pull it out. So I have a stud there. It is in the wall, nailed into the stud. So I removed that. I did it by latching on some pliers here and then prying with the screwdriver between here and the stud, and slowly worked it out. Same with down there. And I pulled it out. Now I'm installing a new box. You want an old work box. It's called old work because it's work that's old. A new work box is for new construction. It doesn't have drywall in it, so you can just, like this one, you can just hammer it in. It's really easy. People recommend using a metal box because it's more fire resistant, but this is what I have available. So I'm gonna put this in, bust these tabs, and put the wires back in, and then wire it up this way. And then I'm just gonna screw these screws back into this stud. Okay, so I got my line and load connected on both sides. I got the new box in. I got it drilled on the right side into the stud. And so now I'm going to wiggle all the wires in. We'll make sure these are really tight. Make sure that when you screw them down, they don't wiggle out. You might have to do a little extra curling with the screwdriver or something just to make sure it's in there good. And then you got like the holes, the punch outs where you fed your cords through. You can feed those back a little bit when you push it back in. It's okay to pull those out a little extra when you're initially doing this, just so it's easier to hook up. And then when you slide it in, you can just move your fingers back there and try and push some of those cables back out the punch box to make it less crowded and easier to push in. Okay, so I got it screwed in. Everything seems well seated. All my cables are still connected. I turned the breaker on. It turned red, and then we got a green light on the GFCI, which you can't see because the flashlight's on. But we plug in our test tool, and we have electricity. And this switch was also connected, and it works. So, as far as I can tell, we did it right. There's no arcing or sparking. Good to go. We can put our plate on and move along with our life.